When the world is just too much, turn it off and turn on positive, encouraging K-Love.
I'm gonna praise.
World off. K-Love on.
K-Love is sunshine for my soul.
I love K-Love.
Listen now on your radio, online, or on the free K-Love app.
K-Love makes me feel so good.
Positive, encouraging K-Love.
Caring for someone with dementia is one of the toughest journeys, but you don't have to do it alone. I'm Allison Schreier, and my experience caring for my husband inspired me to create Zinnia, a therapeutic streaming service designed to support people living with dementia and reduce caregiver stress. Zinnia offers research-backed videos intentionally created for people with dementia, engaging, calming, and easy to follow. Whether you need to ease agitation, create moments of joy, or make daily routines smoother, Zinnia is here to help. Family and professional caregivers use our content to turn challenges into opportunities for connection. Accessible by subscription on mobile devices and connected TVs, Zinnia is simple to use whenever you need it. Because when caregiving feels easier, life feels better. Go to zinniatv.com and sign up for a free trial today. Use the code RESOURCE for 15% off an annual Zinnia subscription.
Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to Alzheimer's Speaks Radio. I'm your host, Lori LeBay, and I'm so excited that you're joining us today. We are going to have a fascinating conversation, as usual, as we learn from people all around the world at all ages and stages of life. Stay tuned as we shift our dementia care from crisis to comfort.
Here we go. What you think about, you will bring about dementia change. We will.
Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to Alzheimer's Speaks. I'm your host, Lori LeBay, and today we're going to be talking about quieting the mind and how that can really help with dementia and improve cognition and also give you some joy. So before I introduce you to our guest today, who is Miriam Fein, I always like to encourage people to check out Alzheimer's Speaks. We have a ton of free curated information there that you can access 24/7. And also our sister company, Dementia Map, which is a global resource directory that we are building out. And then last, I always like to give a little plug for my webmasters, Q for Good. They are absolutely fabulous. They are economical and they meet their time frames, which I love. And they keep things simple, so I'm not so stressed. So that's it for housekeeping. Let's go ahead and introduce you to our guest. Well, Miriam, I am so excited to have you on the show today. I think the work you are doing is profound and exciting and expands way past dementia. I just think it's something that can help everybody live their life better and feel a little more balanced, especially in these crazy times we're living with right now. But if you don't mind introducing yourself to our audience, you'll do a much better job than I will telling them who the heck you are.
Sure. My name is Miriam Fein, and I'm a dementia researcher. I've worked with people with dementia for 30 years easily. And in my life, I've always wanted to feel a quietude within myself. The world seemed very loud to me when I was a child. And I wanted to bring a quietude and a stillness to myself. So I began meditating when I was 14 and in nature. And I find nature to be very inspiring in that way. And what I do with people with dementia and many other conditions, and in Resonant Silence Technique, it's to bring that silence of nature into ourselves, or let that grow and blossom.
Well, very cool. Starting at 14, that's neat. I had one experience. I was walking with my granddaughters, and well, one was using a scooter, and then the other was walking along with me. And the little one on the scooter, she was probably 5 or 6 years old.
Right.
And she just popped off her little scooter and she plopped her butt on the ground. And she had her little helmet on, and she just started, she put her fingers like this, and she closed her eyes and just started going, and it was so cute. I was just like, it was one of my favorite things to see. And even when we talked about it, I said, what drew you in to do that? She's like, I just needed that right then, and I just thought that was so cool. But she learned that in school.
That's so profound. It's funny you should say that. I remember when I was working in the facilities, which I did that for 25 years, people would say things that were so profound. People with dementia would say things that were so like, oh my God, and children say the same thing. I mean, children will come out with the most profound things in the world, and you go, oh my God, that's remarkable. I was teaching archery at a camp, so I would go out to the fields and to teach the occasional archery student. And in those fields where it was basically I was alone, I was reading Alan Watts, who's a wonderful spiritual teacher, and I just began to meditate. I mean, it just happened. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're drawn to where we need to go, I think.
Right. Yeah, I think so. I love that story about that little girl. That's heavenly.
Oh yeah, and I got a picture of her on the ground, and it's still one of my favorites. And I can still hear her with her own, sound. It just sitting there, and I remember my older granddaughter and we just kind of looked at each other, and I said, "Where did she learn that?" And she goes, "Oh, we learned that in school." Now,
it's fantastic.
Yeah.
I love it.
So I thought that was really, really cool. Now, one of the questions I ask every one of my guests is, have you been personally touched by dementia in your own family or circle of friends?
Of course. Not of course, but certainly I have. My dearest aunt, Auntie Rosie, towards the end of her life, she had dementia. And by that time, I had developed Resonant Silence Technique, and so I flew from Seattle to Boston, and I stayed with her. I stayed with my cousin, and we would go to the facility every day. And I remember she was kind of not always lucid. She would sort of go in and out. But I was able to work with her for a couple of times, and she came back. She was Rosie again. She was there. And I started weeping. I mean, it was such a beautiful thing in the world. And when I share sounds which lead into silence, and also prepare the brain to appreciate silence, because I'll talk about that later. But when we're talking, you and I are talking, we're in what's called beta, which is a brainwave state. And that's we do in the world when we interact in the world. But you have to slow down the brainwaves in order to appreciate silence. And when you do, your brain is literally healed. I mean, that's not from me. That's neuroscientists say that, and this is scientific studies that I've studied. So I saw her come back. And I've seen that for many, many, many years using Resonant Silence Technique. So when we had that experience, and she said, Miriam, and my cousins were there, and we were all, and everybody was weeping. I mean, it was just such a blessed moment. So yes, I've been very deeply touched by dementia. And I've had some heartwarming and heart-supporting experiences with dementia in my work and also in my family. So,
yeah, I think when you have those moments of clarity and the simplicity of the joy of just that connection, we overlook that stuff in our day-to-day interactions with people on how precious that is. And then when you lose it, and you see it come back, I think is when people really value it much more, and they I know for myself, I didn't need the deep connection. I mean, it was just how do I want to say? I hate to say deep connection because I think it's really deeper, these little subtle moments than most, but we're so used to this big flash in the pan type thing, that's celebratory and, I don't know. I just think that's how life has gotten on a lot of levels. And we're not really focused on the true connections. And I think dementia really teaches us to kind of go back to a very basic time, that is the core of relationships. And we've lost that, in my opinion, on a lot of levels.
Well, that's why focusing on silence and focusing on quieting the mind so that you can appreciate those very subtle connections that you can make with others. That's very, very important. In my book, I've written a book about this. I talk about how we're so enamored of machines and technology that we've attuned to machines. Mm-hmm. We don't sleep as much. We don't have the same cycles as nature provides us. Mm-hmm. And so rather than attune to the speed of the machine, it's very important for us to attune to the speed or the pace of nature. Mm-hmm. Nature needs cycles of rest and rejuvenation. There's a cycle there. We've lost that cycle in many ways, and returning to that is very important.
Yeah, I went to a retreat one time, and we decided as a group we were going to do, a day of silence, and a lot of people were freaking out, but everybody came out of it going, "That was so powerful." Because we're so scared of silence. We're so scared of the quiet. We fill in the gaps and stuff. It took me 2 weeks. We ended up doing it almost 2 full days because people really liked it. But it took me like 2 weeks to adjust to the outside world again. I just found it overstimulating, overwhelming. It was, and I thought, this is my day-to-day craziness that I've always lived in. And thought was normal. But there's this piece that we don't talk about and we don't experience to the level that I think we should, that is just so profound. And so I can't wait to share, have you share with our audience how you're helping people feel comfortable with the silence and really I think enhance their lives on so many levels. First, should we talk about the Resonant Silence Technique, or what you refer to as RST? What actually is it, and maybe you want to give us a sample of that?
Sure. Resonant Silence Technique, or RST, which is the acronym. It's a rehabilitative treatment approach for those with dementia. Rehabilitative is a very important word. A lot of times when a person gets a diagnosis of dementia, they think it's the end. It's the end of the line. I've noticed in my many, many years, decades of working with people with dementia, that it's not the end of the line. People can improve. Resonant Silence Technique offers relief, emotional relief, and physiological relief and improvement. There are reasons for this. Silence has been shown to help to relax the body, to relax the mind, to slow down blood pressure, heart rate, respiratory rate. And I'll get to this later, but I'll just mention it. It also regenerates the brain. And that's such an important thing. There are a lot of approaches to dementia care that try to engage the memory center. I don't try to engage the memory center. Memory center has been damaged in dementia. So I engage other parts of the brain that are not damaged and help those parts to regenerate other parts of the brain. One thing I'll just mention very quickly, there's a study in 2015 by I. Christ and Associates that's found that in silence the brain grows new neurons. In other words, literally regenerates in silence in the hippocampus. The hippocampus is the area of the brain which is most damaged by dementia. And it's the memory center. It's the center of emotional regulation. And it's the center of navigation in space. So walking around, balance and all that stuff. If we can affect the brain with something that's drug-free, side effect-free, and the only side effect is people feel better, what a blessing.
Yeah. Well, they say there's been so many studies out now about sleep and how it cleanses the brain and helps rejuvenate. And yet I've never heard anyone talk about the silence, but it makes sense because when you're asleep, you're silent and you're just letting the body do its work.
Right. Silence allows the brain to, in the words of Dr. Daniel Siegel, who's a neuroscientist and medical doctor, says in silence the brain can look in on itself and heal itself. It allows the brain to reestablish order within itself. Because in dementia, the brain gets very disordered or dysregulated. So the brain can establish order, and he uses the word resonance, which means that all the different parts of the brain are working together. There's order, there's balance in the brain, allowing the brain to regenerate. And when the brain regenerates, we all regenerate. I mean, that's the switching board of the whole body. Let me share an exercise of Resonant Silence Technique so we can experience it. One of the sounds that I use to bring us into silence is the sound as in the word whoosh or relish or refresh or wish or ocean. All these sounds that we've heard all our lives, right? Go down to the ocean, you'll hear that sound, right? And when the wind goes by, there's this sound. So I'm going to lead us through one of the exercises. So we sit with our feet on the floor and our eyes gently closed, breathing naturally and normally. And we breathe in. I'm just going to go through the instructions first, and we'll do it. You breathe in for a few seconds. You breathe out with the sound. And let it fade. And then we're sitting in silence for a few seconds. Okay? With our eyes closed, just allowing ourselves to be. Okay? So we're going to begin. Now at the count of 3, we'll breathe in. 1, 2, 3. Breathing in. Breathing out with the sound SH. And now breathing normally, we're sitting in silence. Okay, and we're ready. Let's open our eyes.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident that was not your fault, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by to answer your questions for free. Call now and find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100. I'm here with spokesman John Wolf. So, John, tell everyone listening who should call right now.
Well, Maria, first off, thank you for having me here. It's always nice to answer the listeners' questions. Now, as far as who should call in, anyone who's been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, give us a call right now. 800-710-5100. You'll find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth.
Thanks, John. You heard it, folks. Take advantage of this opportunity and call now. 800-710-5100.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states. Not available in California.
So, how did that feel?
It felt really good. It felt, I didn't get much sleep last night. And it could have put me to sleep if I would have sat there for much longer and quiet. But it was very calming, and it was very simple to do. It wasn't difficult instructions. So my mind wasn't like thinking, am I doing it right? Or, because sometimes that stuff interferes. It was just a very simple, easy thing to do. And it felt like when I was doing the shush that any anxiousness I had in my body just left.
Wonderful. Yeah, I've been using that for, as I said, over 25 years. And it for people with dementia, I'm sharing now or teaching, training a person with dementia now, and also a family caregiver, which I do on a regular basis. And for the person with dementia, we do these exercises together. And she just feels like, that feels so good. And then we do other exercises that help her. And I see she's come from a very chaotic place. And I'll talk about that in a minute, but she came from a very chaotic place to a very simple place where the mind is very quiet, very regulated. And I see her coming alive, basically, because she's not overwhelmed by so much stuff constantly. She can just be, think simple thoughts, and her essence is coming out again. And it's beautiful to see that.
Yeah, I know. I have a loved one right now with dementia, and she gets very nervous. She happens to have diabetes, and she no longer understands her high and low numbers. So she's always thinking she's low. She's always thinking she's going to just be left to die, no matter what. And she just loops. And a lot of people with dementia loop in different fashions, especially around that sundowning time, late afternoon, early evening. And it just makes me feel so sad because, like last night, for example, she called, we talked, had her calmed down. 30 seconds to a minute later, calls right back, same question, same angst, and I just think, oh my gosh, that's got to be so difficult to go through that looping and that anxiety. So any way that we can help them find peace and feeling centered. I mean, I think we all know what that's like for us. We know what it's like to feel anxious and kind of awkward, or you don't fit in, all of those types of things, and then multiply that times 100. Right. And that's what our people with dementia are doing, because they can't even rationalize that they're anxious or that they're having these feelings. So I found, breathing alone. I mean, needless to say, we have to breathe to stay alive, but different exercises with that have helped me kind of rebalance and feel calm. But I think the sound on top of that, it really has you concentrate on these two things that kind of resonate together and give this calmness and this focus.
I found that that's all very true. Thank you for saying that. My work, I find that people with sundowning And perseveration is that thing where you repeat. I've seen that in facilities. And my work, because it quiets the mind and brings order to the brain, those behaviors lessen. And I've seen sundowning lessen and eliminate in some instances. So dementia is a disease of the brain. It's a dysregulation of the brain, where the brain speeds up and is inundated by thoughts and stimulus. You and I who don't have dementia, we have a filter that filters out a great deal of the stimulus from the world. Otherwise, we would be overwhelmed. And people with dementia, that filter is damaged or missing. And so that stimulus pours in on them and overwhelms them. So the stimulus, and that leads into some other things that we're going to talk about. Jay Dewing in 2009 found that high levels of sensory stimuli are negatively affect people with dementia. So that's why even before Resonant Silence Technique, I was working with people with dementia. I'd always create a very quieting atmosphere for them so that they could feel, they don't have to encounter or try to negotiate all of the stimulus pouring in, because there was no stimulus. It was just quiet. I would play, let's say, a native flute, and I wouldn't play songs particularly because that appeals to the memory. I don't want to stimulate the memory. I want the memory to be quiet and allow the memory itself to regenerate. And I found that actually works. And so people can be allowed to be in silence and allowed to. Sound is a bridge, and sound and breathing are bridges to silence. Silence is where the most profound change happens. But I use sound and silence slow down our brain waves. And when the brain waves slow down, we can appreciate life and appreciate silence on a new level. And then it can really affect our brain and our physiology and our spirit.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. And I think, these are exercises where care partners, if it's professional or family, can do it right with somebody too, and it'll have a profound effect on them. And I think especially if you go into it not doing it for the person with dementia, but doing it for yourself. Because sometimes we have this attitude that we're doing it for someone and we're not thinking that we're going to get anything out of it. And we won't get anything out of it if we don't expect to get anything out of it. If we have that kind of block up, that we're just doing this rote thing.
Well, that's a very important thing you just said. And that's a segue into something that I wanted to talk about. That one of the questions you had me send into you was how can family, what was it exactly? How can family professional caregivers benefit from RST exercises? It's essentially the caregiver is finding their own stillness. Because if they don't find their own stillness, they have nothing to share with the person with dementia. So, and this started, I started this because I needed it. I needed the stillness within myself. And once I found that stillness, I went, oh my God, perhaps this can help other people. So that's the process when I teach and train people, family and professional caregivers. I say, this is for you. This is for you. And once you develop this peacefulness within yourself and this stillness, then you can share that. You can what's called model that. And people will be attracted to your energy and they will copy your energy, or what's called entrain. They will attune themselves to you. So, but your stillness is essential in all this. So it's a real partnership. You're changing yourself, basically, and then the people you're working with will change along with you.
Yeah. Well, and people might recognize by doing this too, because I think people have a really tough time with this, that people emulate what we do. So if we come in anxious or frustrated, especially with a person with dementia,
Right.
they're going to be anxious and frustrated and probably knock it up a notch, which is going to knock us up a notch, which knocks them up a notch, and it just kind of keeps going. But if you can feel balanced and grounded and, confident and peaceful, and, it just puts a whole different light on the relationship, what you bring to it, along with decreasing your anxiety of, am I doing too much? Am I not doing enough? Am I doing it right? I'm never going to get all this stuff done. I mean, there's so many things that run through our minds too, when we're caring for somebody, because we have a lot of other things that we have to do that most likely we haven't let go of. And so, it just kind of keeps stacking up. So I think that give and take of our energy, which I think for a long time people heard the word energy and they just thought, oh, it's foo-foo, it's witchcraft, it's, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, this is like basic science stuff.
It really is.
It really is.
In the book I talk about, my name of my book is Quiet Mind Dementia Relief. Mm-hmm. Cognitive improvement and joy, because I've seen that with some folks I've worked with. There's this joy that I talk about in the book, that it's very important to come to a session or we're working with someone with dementia in a quiet place, so that you're in a still place, because you're right, exactly. When you come and you're agitated. And I learned this by coming to sessions agitated, and it didn't work very well. So, so it's very important to come to a session in a quiet place. And that's why it's important to cultivate your own stillness, so that you have something to give, so you can give that to the folks that you're working with.
Well, and I think so often, I mean, I just think of the times that I hear from people, and I experience this myself multiple times, where people are like, oh, they just follow me around. I can't even go to the bathroom on my own. I just need a few minutes by myself. But when you realize, and this is something that I kind of, how I phrased it for myself, when I realized that I was kind of like the child's security blanket or favorite toy that gave them comfort, because you think of like when a child loses that, the panic mode that they go in.
Sure. Yeah.
And when I could look at myself and go, how lucky am I to be able to give somebody that calmness?
Sure.
I cannot shut the bathroom door if they need to stand outside while I go. I mean, it's worth it. You put it in a whole different light where it really isn't asking that much of you, to keep things calm, because as they escalate, you escalate. If you want to believe it or not, you're not staying typically at a level pace. And so when your goal is to kind of keep that peace and keep that comfort, and you can do that through the silence and through the sound, I would think that would just make an unbelievable difference in any relationship, not just one with dementia.
Absolutely. You're giving the caregiver a tool and a method, a path to find their own quiet, their own peace.
Caring for someone with dementia is one of the toughest journeys, but you don't have to do it alone. I'm Allison Schreier, And my experience caring for my husband inspired me to create Zinnia, a therapeutic streaming service designed to support people living with dementia and reduce caregiver stress. Zinnia offers research-backed videos intentionally created for people with dementia, engaging, calming, and easy to follow. Whether you need to ease agitation, create moments of joy, or make daily routines smoother, Zinnia is here to help. Family and professional caregivers use our content to turn challenges into opportunities for connection. Accessible by subscription on mobile devices and connected TVs, Zinnia is simple to use whenever you need it. Because when caregiving feels easier, life feels better. Go to zinniatv.com and sign up for a free trial today. Use the code RESOURCE for 15% off an annual Zinnia subscription.
Which will help them throughout anything they do in their life and will allow them not to attune to the person they're working with. Because then nobody's leading the ship here. Nobody's captaining the ship. That's a very important thing when you're sharing with a person with dementia, to remain aware of yourself. Because, and that happened to me many times, I'd be leading some of the exercises and I get lost in my own meditation, and then I wasn't able to be keyed into the responses of people. Some people might cry, or some people might need attention, and I was lost, so I wasn't able to be there. So it's very important and I train people to do that, so that to learn how to be within yourself and be aware of yourself while you're sharing with other people.
Now, when you do training, do you do that as a group or individuals or both? Or
I've done all of the above.
Okay.
Lately, and on my website, which is, I'm sure you provided that to folks, you can sign up for various different trainings. One is with a person with dementia. Another is a family caregiver or a professional caregiver. In other words, a person who has a family member, or a person who works in a skilled nursing facility, memory care center, hospital, hospice. I was a hospice musician for 3 years. And my background is as a cantor, which is a minister in Judaism. And cantors tend to do music ministries with their congregants. So I was very much steeped in that for many years. Then I added the silence part, and it transformed everything for me.
Wow. I just find it so fascinating how people come to their techniques or their products or services, whatever they do. And, 99% of them do it through experience, and bring things forward because they see how powerful it's been for themselves, and they want to gift that to others.
It starts with yourself. Exactly.
Yeah. So now, can they go to your site, resonantsilencetechniques.com, and find out about classes that you're teaching and how that would take place?
Yes, there's a section in. I'm not sure exactly the name of this section, but if you go through the different sections, you'll find the training section. And it's, by the way, resonantsilencetechnique.com. So,
okay.
So yeah, and I don't know if the links work particularly, but you can always call me. It says contact information. Either call me or email me, and we can set up a training for a person with dementia, for a caregiver, or for a facility. I've trained administrators and directors of facilities. When I worked as a hospice musician, certified clinical musician for hospice, I trained everyone. I trained the doctors and the nurses in my technique, and people were so grateful. So it was wonderful.
Wow. Well, and yeah, I can see that being very, very helpful for for medical professionals. They have such a stressful job, or policemen and EMTs, and I just think it's good for everybody to learn kind of how to control and shift their own body. And
right. It's self-regulation, and that's good for everyone. It does, you don't have to have dementia. And because I just started doing it for myself because I needed this stillness and this quietude. So it's for that, it's for inner peace, and it's also for those with dementia. So it's for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Now, do you do like groups in like assisted living or memory care? Do you go in and would you facilitate a group, or do you see this working better on a one-on-one with people with dementia?
I have, as I said, for 25 years gone into memory care centers, and I stopped doing that when COVID hit. And but I've done some since COVID ended. I don't do that much anymore. I do more because I'm getting on in years, but I do things online. I've done a webinar, and it's based in New Delhi on healthy aging, where I talk about Resonant Silence Technique. Actually, that talk's on my website. I do training online mostly these days, but I'm also training certified resonant silence practitioners, and so they can do the work in the facilities. So.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. Now, is there anything that we haven't covered that we should cover?
Well, let's see. There were some questions that you had asked me. What is resonant silence technique? Why is silence? I'm going to go through these questions one by one, and then I can answer some of the things that I have been able to go over. So why is silence so vital for those with dementia? We talked about how people with dementia, their minds are over-functioning, and because of that, unbalanced. So when you introduce certain sounds which slow down the brain waves, and silence which does that as well, you establish order and balance into the brain. And I mentioned that in the 2015 study that in silence the brain regenerates in the memory center, which is the area that's most damaged in dementia.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident that was not your fault, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by to answer your questions for free. Call now and find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100. I'm here with spokesman John Wolf. So, John, tell everyone listening who should call right now.
Well, Maria, first off, thank you for having me here. It's always nice to answer the listeners' questions. Now, as far as who should call in, anyone who's been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, give us a call right now. 800-710-5100. You'll find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth.
Thanks, John. You heard it, folks. Take advantage of this opportunity and call now. 800-710-5100.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states. Not available in California.
So let's see. How does Resonant Silence Technique change the way that we think about what people need to heal, people with dementia to heal? I've worked, as I said, in facilities for many years, and I would go in there and there would be a big screen TV on 24/7. That's exactly what people with dementia don't need. That ramps up the stimulus level. As I talked about before, there's a study in 2009, which I quote in my paper. I have a scientific paper on the website that was published in London in 2018 Now, that article now is on the National Institutes of Health website, and I've gotten calls from all over the world to train and to lecture on Resonant Silence Technique. In fact, I went to Germany in 2019 to speak at an international Alzheimer's conference on Resonant Silence Technique. So, big screen TVs and making cake with high levels of sugar, spiking glucose levels all over the place. I mean, I know that people in caregivers are well-meaning. They're beautiful people, and they really want to help, but in many cases they don't understand that people with dementia need quiet. They need regulation. They need structure. And what's good for them may not be good for people with dementia. They have very specific needs. So when I work with with the person who with dementia I'm working with, I read poetry with her. Mm-hmm. Poetry has been shown in a scientific study to lower our heart rate, because there's a rhythm, there's a pace in certain kinds of poetry. Older poetry, Sea Fever, and William Butler Yeats, these older poems have a very beautiful rhythm to them, quieting rhythm, very natural rhythm, and that affects our heart rate. So when I start with her, I start with a little poetry, and she says, "Oh, that's wonderful, that's great." And then she's very open to the exercises. And I see the clarity that she exhibits now. You know, it's no longer, this very, very chaotic kind of mind. Now it's sort of like the mind is very still, it's very ordered, and she speaks in a more measured way. And she doesn't feel like her mind is overwhelming her constantly. So I see change there. I did a 3-month quality of life study in a memory care center. And I noticed that I found that when RST was done twice a week for a month, and then once a week for 2 months, the positive changes were sustainable. People began to speak that hadn't spoken in 5 years. People who would only speak disjointed words now were speaking in full sentences. I saw people get up from their wheelchair and start conducting. I did one song in my sessions, and they would start conducting, and they would be smiling. And these are people who are bedridden or wheelchair bound. They would get up. Mm-hmm. I think this brings up something that's very important. In dementia, a person many times can lose their will to live. Mm-hmm. And Resonant Silence Technique can bring that will back to them. And they'll go, "Oh my God, I'm alive. I can participate. I can be. I can connect. I can mm-hmm. connect." I've seen people hold out their hands to be held and to be embraced. And after a session, a person will say, "How are you doing?" Which people with profound dementia don't tend to do that, to be able to connect again with others. I mean, I have innumerable studies from people that I talk about in the book. After Resonant Silence Technique, people can connect better with their caregivers. They can take direction. They can speak with their family members. I mean, it can totally regenerate the mind, body, spirit.
Okay. Anything else that you wanted to cover? I thought we had covered the questions, but my apologies if we didn't dive deep enough in that.
Oh, that's fine. We were talking around and in and out of a lot of the questions, so that's perfect. One of the questions that I wanted to mention is the last question. What are the benefits of bringing RST's quieting meditative experience to the residents? People who live in assisted living or memory care or skilled nursing. When I would go into a facility, usually the decibel levels in facilities are way, way high. Mm-hmm. And there's also a kind of a busyness going on and a kind of a chaos that's going on. So I would request a quiet room away from nursing stations, and I would close the door so that people could be in a quiet place. People would say to me when I would go into facilities, they would say, I wish you could just be here all the time, because you bring a kind of a calm into the center. Resonant Silence Technique brings this calm, brings this stillness, and brings an appreciation for quiet. You know, our culture is so inundated by stimulus, by our phones, which are reprogramming us, by the way, which I'm sure you know. But when you can get away from that and just be able to appreciate your own being, you know, we're not human doings, we're human beings. So we are meant to be, and just be able to be quiet and appreciate that. And when that happens, the brain goes, oh, I can just be here, and I don't have to perform, I don't have to do, I can just be. And that will lead us into doing in a calm and ordered way.
I think that's a beautiful statement. I remember Harry Urban. He's one of my people from my panel on dementia chats, and he would always say, you know, caregivers, you got to remember, we like to relax before our dementia. We still do. Sure. So just sit down, settle down, and just, you know, breathe in the air, soak up the sun, feel the breeze on your face, you know, smell the flowers, listen to the birds, but just relax, because they can feel our tension. And I think a lot of times we think we're doing good by keeping them busy, and they don't want to be busy. They want to move at their own pace. And, you know, there's a saying out there where, because a lot of times we will fill in the gap when someone with dementia is trying to talk because they're not talking fast enough, they're not responding. And then we wonder why they get upset or why they walk away, because they're not really being treated with dignity. And
let me jump in for a second, Lori, because you said something which made me aware of something which I hadn't mentioned. I have what's called a TRT, which is a thought retrieval technique. Mm-hmm. You know, memory is a problem with folks with dementia. So I have found that breathing is connected to thinking. So when you pause your breathing, your thinking stops as well. And when thinking stops, the brain regenerates. So I will do this exercise with people. I can do it with you now if you want.
Sure.
Very simple. So it's just, I'll give you the instructions. We breathe in. Mm-hmm. And then at the top of our exhalation, you breathe. Inhalation, you stop your breathing, or you pause your breathing for a few seconds. Mm-hmm. And then you breathe out, and then we're in silence for a few seconds. That's the whole thing. Okay, so once again, it's very simple. Okay, so we try it together?
Sure.
So we're sitting with our feet on the floor and our eyes gently closed, breathing naturally and gently. So at the count of 3, we'll breathe in. So 1, 2, 3, breathing in. And now we pause our breathing for a few seconds. And then we breathe out. And now we're in silence, breathing naturally. Okay, when we're ready, let's open our eyes.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident that was not your fault, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by to answer your questions for free. Call now and find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100. I'm here with spokesman John Wolf. So, John, tell everyone listening who should call right now.
Well, Maria, first off, thank you for having me here. It's always nice to answer the listeners' questions. Now, as far as who should call in, anyone who's been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, give us a call right now. 800-710-5100. You'll find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth.
Thanks, John. You heard it, folks. Take advantage of this opportunity and call now. 800-710-5100.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states. Not available in California.
Yeah, it really is true that the chatter in your head just stops.
Yeah,
That pause.
it's an amazing thing when I realized that. And at this point, when I'm working with somebody, I'll read some poetry and I'll have them repeat a couple of lines of poetry, like one line of poetry, and we'll work with that because people will recognize that their memory is improving. The memory can improve. It's not a dead end. The memory can improve. The brain can improve. A person can improve. And this is one of the most precisely the whole practice is going to that one exercise where we pause the breathing and allow the mind just to be. And I'm very inspired by Lao Tzu, who's an ancient Chinese philosopher. He wrote the Tao Te Ching. He said, the way to do is to be. And that sort of knocks over the whole society's way of like, we got to stay busy.
Yeah.
No, it's important just to be, and out of our being will come what's right to do.
Which, it makes it so much simpler and such a more calm process when approached like that. Instead of this frenzied multitasking that everyone's kind of acclimated to, and then we wonder why we're tired and why we're stressed and things. Well, very interesting. Well, Miriam, thank you so much for spending this time with us today. Do you want to share your website, email, and phone number with people?
Sure. Yeah. My website address is www.Resonant Silence Technique. I don't know the chat thing or whatever, but if you can, it's RESONANT, Resonant Silence, SILENCE, Technique, TECHNIQUE.com. Okay, that's my website. My phone number is 206-939-2124, and my email is my name, Miriam, MIRIAM, Fein, F as in freedom, FEIN. So it's Miriam Fein, number 8, at gmail.com. And I always like to say Miriam Fein 8 at Gmail, and it was a good meal.
Okay, and then they can access your classes and your research, and then also your book through your website.
Yes, the name, my book is not published yet. I'm looking for a publisher, but the name of the book is on the website. And get in touch with me. I don't think the links work particularly, but you can always you can read all about Resonant Silence Technique. And then call me or email me, and we can talk about it. And I'd be happy to train, either perhaps go to your facility or to do it online. I'm very open and anxious to share and to help. So please get in touch with me.
Wonderful. Thank you. And for our audience, I always ask you to be a giver of hope, like, click, and share. There are people in your sphere that need this information and don't even know this exists, that this is an option. And so we have to make it easier for people to be able to find things. And they really appreciate being referred from a trusted friend. Or colleagues. So, it doesn't cost you any money. It takes just a click of a second to share this. And we really appreciate you being part of our community. Last, I would just recommend people, again, check out Alzheimer's Speaks and all of our free educational resources, as well as Dementia Map, our sister company. And if you have a service, product, or tool you'd like listed in it, just reach out to me. We'd love to have you added as well. Take care, everyone. Bye now.
Take care.
Attention, seniors. Are you looking for a community that offers incredible benefits and stands up for your values? Look no further than AMAC. With an AMAC membership, you'll enjoy exclusive discounts on insurance, travel, dining, and shopping. Stay informed with 6 issues a year of our award-winning AMAC magazine, delivering trusted news and valuable insights. But that's not all. AMAC is committed to defending America's future by directly bringing the voices of our more than 2 million members to our elected officials. Join a community that cares about your needs and your values. For a limited time, we're offering a 1-year membership for only $1. Yes, just $1 for a year of incredible benefits and advocacy. Don't wait. Take advantage of this special offer and join AMAC today. Visit amac.us/join now. That's amac.us/join now.